welcome. My name is Monica Claridge. This is Mindfulness in PE and Beyond, and for elementary as a whole, but we'll kind of work with you. What's your name?
My name's Robin.
And where are you from?
Eastern Long Island in New York.
Awesome. Welcome. Thank you. And you said preschool level you work with?
Yeah, we have 18 months to 5 years, but I'm a varsity coach.
Awesome.
I go across the spectrum.
All right, awesome. So I usually have my kids lead practices that they enjoy. Would you mind ringing the bell for us?
No.
All right, awesome. Okay, and I'll oftentimes have them come to the front of the room. If you want to do that, you can. If you want to stay right where you are, that's awesome. And then just listening to the sound, and when you don't hear it anymore, since you're ringing the bell, go ahead and look at me or raise your hand, whatever you choose. I try to engage them as much as possible because anything hands-on seems to really work and be helpful. So, like I said, my name's Monica. I teach elementary PE at East Elementary in Kodiak Island, Alaska. And usually every time I say that, everybody wants to know exactly where it is. So we'll just get that out of the way. It's that little island. But right there.
Wow.
So in the middle of nowhere, it's about 100 miles long, anywhere from 10 to 60 miles wide. About 9,000 people on the island, 3,500 brown bears. And here's just a few pictures of Kodiak. So the school that I teach at has a wide range of kids. Title I school. We have several different groups represented, from the Filipino population to our native population, Russian, and then we have a Coast Guard base on the island, so a very diverse group with people coming in and out often. So my journey with finding mindfulness started about 8 years ago. I used to be a college basketball coach. I used to be a college basketball referee. So I would have considered myself like immune to stress. And there was a perfect storm of things that transpired in my life. And all of a sudden I was driving and started, my eyesight kind of vision narrowed, and all of a sudden my hands are shaking and I'm thinking I'm having a heart attack. So I pull over to the side of the road, I call 911. They tell me I've had my first panic attack. And that kind of just set my whole world upside down. The season before, I'd driven 20,000 miles for roughing. So the idea of not being able to get behind the wheel and having my parents drive me to and from work was a challenge. I saw a psychiatrist and a therapist, and they introduced me to my therapist introduced me to the book Wherever You Go, There You Are by John Kabat-Zinn. And so I started kind of implementing these practices in my life. It's kind of like an everyday person's guide to exploring mindfulness. And as I did that, I noticed that I was slowly returning to me. During this time, I also had several students who just mentioned to me, and without me volunteering the information about my situation, that they were stressed out about a variety of different things. I had to learn mindfulness and other stress reduction techniques at a very elevated state, and when I was like in my 30s. So it kind of got my wheels turning, like how can I share this with my kids? How can I give them tools that they can have in their toolbox so that if they experience something like this in life, they know what to do and they don't have to learn it in that moment. And so that's kind of what's been driving my desire to help and change. So as a result of all of those things, my natural state seems to be a little bit higher. So in order to be able to show up big and do the best that I can for my kiddos, I have to have a very specific routine, from going to the gym to coming home, and my little buddies right there are my two miniature dachshunds that practice mindfulness with me every morning and set my day right. Because if I don't do that, then I can't be present for my kiddos. So I ended up getting training through Mindful Schools, so that I had a curriculum and kind of a pathway to be able to share with kids. And last year, actually, at the conference, I found the Empowering Minds curriculum. So I've kind of worked to take all of those and kind of combine them into something that I've made my own. As life would have it, all of this happened in Florida, and I found myself on a tiny island in the middle of nowhere in Kodiak. So with a new principal and new different students and everything. And so I spoke with my new principal initially and said, I have this curriculum, I'm interested in potentially sharing it with our students. And she was open to the idea, but we didn't, go in with a firm plan for actually implementing it. So I started using mindful minutes at the end of my PE classes, just to kind of transition them back to the classroom. And we'll get into what that looks like in a minute. But as they were doing that, teachers began to ask me, like, what's happening at the end of PE? Because things are different when we transition back to the classroom now. And so we revisited the curriculum with my principal, and we decided that we would go ahead and move forward, and I would start to teach mini mindfulness actual lessons during my PE classes. I have a unique situation where I see my 2nd through 5th graders, which is where the main focus was, either 3 or 4 times a week, depending upon the week, which provides me with a little extra time to be able to kind of implement this. So before doing so, I presented the curriculum, what was coming to both the staff and our PTA to kind of give them an understanding of where we were going, and then began to implement those lessons. And it's kind of, I ended up transitioning from the school that I started at to another school the next year, and so kind of revisiting all that stuff, and then now also working on more of a school-wide approach with a mindful minute to start our day on the announcements, which the kids need, which is pretty cool. So I touched on it a little bit about my routine, but I just want to revisit the importance of our personal practice. I have this book that I've actually used pretty extensively with my kiddos because it's written by Lori Grossman, but also a 5th grade class in East Oakland. And so it's relatable for them. Master of Mindfulness, How to Be Your Own Superhero in Times of Stress. So one of the pages says, teachers should do a little mindfulness when the kids don't pay attention and they feel frustrated. Otherwise, they will yell and lose control. Mindfulness can help them be calmer. And inevitably, every time we read this page, someone chimes in, this teacher, my teacher last year wasn't mindful, or something along those lines, where implying that they had been yelled at and this teacher could potentially use mindfulness. And so I think that is just like the critical piece. And as I was listening to Toby this morning, I was like, maybe I need to shift a little bit more of my focus to these next couple slides that I have. So we're gonna work on that a little bit. 2 quotes, I think. An escalated adult cannot de-escalate an escalated child. And also, we teach our students how to behave by what we allow, what we stop, what we ignore, and what we reinforce. And so really, how can I embody a mindfulness practice that I'm doing a formal practice on my own, but also how can I mindfully instruct my students? And so every morning I'm on crosswalk duty, and I greet the kids that come through my crosswalk, and what we tell them. And we have implemented conscious discipline, which I'm not here to sell that or anything, but some of the things from it are the wording, the verbiage has been really, really impactful, I think. And so one of the things is, we're so glad you're here. Hi, Robin, we're so glad you're here today. And to have a smile and a kid see that to start their day, because we don't know what happened, all the trauma, whatever they've dealt with before they got there, most of which is not their fault at all. And so to know that they're welcome. On our announcements, our principal says, it's my job to keep the school safe. It's your job to help keep the school safe. And there's a big focus on, is behavior safe or unsafe? Instead of, is this good or bad behavior? And the question, instead of, why did this child do this, but what happened to this child? And how can we help this child now? So with that shift, it's really, that helps us be more mindful educators. And with that personal practice, allows us to actually pause when something is happening and say, how am I going to respond instead of react? We talked this morning about how education, there can be trauma from education, and that can be intergenerational trauma. A parent has had a negative experience in school, and those things, they don't just disappear. And so really, how can we make sure that we're not doing that with our kiddos in all of our interactions? So we really focus on making sure that how we talk is in a way that is really trauma engaged and trauma informed. So if I notice a kiddo that is doing something that, barring if it's not safe, and I need to immediately go over and make sure that that child is safe and that the rest of the students are safe. If it's a behavior that I can potentially ignore, then I am noticing. I noticed that Susie is, sitting hands to self, waiting patiently for coach to give me instructions so she knows what to do. That is helpful. And so then we are letting them know that what they're doing, and we're noticing them, which is, mindfulness is about noticing. So this is a mindful way to see changes in behavior, because inevitably the little child over there that isn't necessarily doing what they're supposed to do wants to be noticed. And now we are only giving them that positive interaction. And our mission is at least 3 to 1 for positive interactions to negative for one kiddo, and hopefully way beyond that. Our mission is 0 negative interactions in my whole class. Does that happen every day? No, absolutely not. But I'm trying to be really mindful so that nothing that happens in my class, hopefully, which is hard in PE, you never know what's going to happen. There's balls flying everywhere. But anything that I have control of, to not have that be something that's traumatic for them. If I have a kiddo that's having a hard time with something, and you can see that they're struggling, they're frustrated, they're sad, they're sitting down over in the corner, the way that we approach them is in a manner of trying to help be co-regulators. And this is why it's really important during the course of my teaching that I am really aware of my emotional state. Am I in the executive state, or not? Because I need to be there to help my kiddos. So if I've been triggered by something, then I need to say, okay, I need to take a few breaths. I can say to myself, you got this, or whatever I need to internally say to myself, and then go over to the kiddo. And now once I'm regulated, I can help that individual regulate. So for example, for some reason, Susie seems to be my friend that I always use with my kiddos. I rarely have I can't tell you the last time I had a Susie in my class, so it kind of works. But of course, next year I'm probably gonna have one. But looking at the child and getting that child to look at you. So I might be down here with that kid, and your face looks like this, and I'm actually physically like making that face in hopes that I can get eye contact. And then your body looks like this, and then whatever, I'm mimicking whatever they're doing, hoping that they're gonna look at me. And when they look at me, then I'm just breathing. can I help? Or, if I know what happened, you wanted that ball, but your friend took it, how can we handle this? And we work forward with that. So trying to be really mindful. Shying away from good jobs, one way to go, but actually noticing what they did. You dribbled the ball waist high using the pads of your fingers so you had control. It's hard. That takes effort. You have that, especially teaching PE. You got a whole room full of kids to be able to go and do that, but that's what matters. That's what's mindful. And so focusing on those things can help me just have a mindful presence, and then being really intentional with providing kids opportunities to respond that are safe. So for example, instead of just calling on the kiddo that has their hand raised, I want to engage everybody in my class, maybe with group opportunities to respond by a call and response, or an opportunity where they're talking to a partner or giving them time to think before I ask that question. And then when I'm asking the question, maybe share something that you or your partner discussed, so that I'm trying to avoid the possibility of calling on someone who's going to be then uncomfortable or not have an answer because I haven't given them the opportunity to ponder and think or figure something else out by learning from a classmate or something. So all of that, I think, kind of ties into truly being a mindful educator, and that has nothing to do with my little mindful minute or my PE instruction, but just my presence, my physical presence. And from last year at the conference, my word was presence. And so I've got that on my wrist, and just always my presence is that can make a difference. So just really being cognizant of that, and how can I be a mindful teacher? As my teaching has evolved, and I've learned to take just the mindfulness lesson and actually make it more social emotional as a whole. So one of the things that we discuss is I statements, and we use that. I use that as part of our little solution station. So if they have a challenge with another friend, they can go over to the solution station. And the first thing is breathe, and we have a list right here of different ways they can breathe, or anything that we've done previously in class. And then the thing on the right is kind of what goes through, and we put our hands out like this so that we're open and receptive to what each other has to say. And then we take turns sharing without interruption. And then we do Kelso's choices at our school. So this is like a wheel that has, share, take turns, all different things, but ways to solve that. And if it's something that they cannot come to an agreement on, then they can bring it over there. And I this is against the wall, so I can be instructing, but also have an ear on what's going on, so I'm aware. And then after they do that, when they're sharing, we have our I statements over there and talking about how they can share using an I statement and the different emotion that they're feeling and why they feel that. So using that, incorporating that into our solution station or center. We also have a safe place in the gym, as safe as it can be with balls flying around. So one of my students, actually, I was trying to figure out the best way to do it, and he was like, let's just take these gymnastics mats and move this like this and put it around. So it's just right there in the corner, and anybody can go to the safe place. Just have to ask. If somebody else is there, I have a little timer that we put on. They're elementary, so my timer's 3 minutes. I check in if I haven't done so already to see if they need more time. And then I also have one of these little boards for a friend if they need it while they're waiting. So that's something that can be helpful. And as they're there, when we go through and introduce the safe place. It's not open until after I've shared how to use it at the beginning of the year, and we talk about emotions and noticing our emotions and where we notice them. And those little puppet sort of looking or stuffed animal things are like little feeling buddies, we call them, that have the little emotions on them, so they can pull out the one or ones that they're feeling, and then we can work through that. And there's books and coloring, and the stuff on the far side is just different suggestions for what they can do. If they want to walk a lap around the gym, if they want to do some stretching, whatever, anything that, you know, as we get further on in the year, things that we've also gone over in our little mindfulness lessons. So, does anybody have any questions so far? All right, awesome. Okay, so when my kiddos come in, might not have put that yet. I think I might have skipped it. I greet them at the door to my gym. I think that maybe went back there. Anyways, I have 3 different things, and they're Velcroed, so I can switch them up each week. And as they go by the door, they tap on whichever way they'd like to be greeted. And sometimes I have to say, okay, only 3 greetings today, because I'm like, okay, I can't remember that much. I'm getting old to see these gray hairs. So, but I greet them, I look at them, I see them, greet them by name, and then I know, oh, you know, Susie's not. She's not like she usually is, you know. I need to revisit this in a minute once we get things started, or maybe she needs a safe place. And some will even walk in and say, I just need the safe place for a minute. They go in 2 minutes, and then they're rocking and rolling. They just needed it. After everybody's in, we'll sign our contract. And when we sign our contract, and we'll actually do that. So if you guys want to stand up, we come into a circle in the middle of the gym.
Mindfulness. Doing the sharp.
And so when we do this, I guess they can probably still hear it. I'm trying to figure out. So we'll come to the circle. When they hear this music, we have like the middle circle in the gym.
Every day?
Yes. So we start our day like this, and we just kind of calm our bodies. And then we go down like this, come back up. And initially we say it out loud, eventually we can do it silently, but we say, and if you guys could repeat after me, I am in control of my body. And then we move our hands here, and we say, I am in control of my words.
I am in control of my words.
And then we put our hands here, and we say, I am the boss of my brain. And then, depending upon the class and their comfort level, they can either be close to each other, or they can actually physically put their arms touching, and then we say, I can play on any team with any friend.
I can play on any team with any friend.
Thank you so much. And then after that, they usually sit down, and then I'll begin our class for the day. So we're setting the tone every single day. So every single day. That is how we do it. And if for some reason I get caught up in an announcement or something, I'm like, Coach, we haven't signed our contract yet. So I'll leave that. Tracy will have this, so you guys will be able to get access to the PowerPoint, so that you can have that. So as I transitioned from just the PE, I'm gonna have to speed up here, I guess. Started talking about working on our mental game. So we really wanted to take mindfulness and give it like a PE twist, so that they would understand, and then they could take what they learned and use it in the rest of life and say, here, you can use this. So in doing so, I'm not gonna, in the interest of time, I'm not gonna read, but I got a couple quotes from Phil Jackson that really hone in on the importance of our mental game. And then I am going to play for you this Calm ad. So LeBron James has partnered with Calm.
Yes.
And it is
great athletes as the strongest, the fittest. Just the perfection was a strong body without a sound mind. We're so focused on strength that we forget to strengthen our focus. The mind is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. And while the greats master the body, the greatest master the mind.
So that's one of the things I show that to my kids, and that is a piece of just kind of like, this is why we're doing it. And you know, when you they, even though we're on a small island in Alaska, they actually know, you know, who a couple of these famous basketball players are, and him. So that was something that I thought was important to share.
Alaska?
Yes, Kodiak Island. So, and this kind of goes right into talking about the importance of paying attention. And this is like where I first honed in. It's like, you know, has anybody ever asked you to pay attention in life? I'm like, I probably have at some point, you know? Raise your hand if that's the case. And then from there, keep your hand up if anybody's actually taught you how to do that. And most hands go down. And then that kind of leads the way in. Okay, so when do we need to focus in life? And I give the kids the opportunity to share times. And then we talk about, okay, now from a sports perspective, if I'm a cornerback and I'm playing defense, do I have to be focused in on the wide receiver that I'm guarding and the quarterback and everything else that's going on? If I'm in a basketball game and I got to hit that free throw. So I give as many sports-related examples that I need to. And then I go off also, you know, does a brain surgeon need to have focus? So in order to be successful at what you do and really be successful, the people that are best at it can focus the best. And we're going to learn how to focus, because the way you get better at focusing is by practicing. So let's do it. So that's when I start out with using the listening games. So the one that I draw a lot from mindful games and mindful kids, and they're like activity cards that you can use. And they're really, I mean, things are just clear as day, right there. And I mean, it's like $15 each, and I've got like a wealth of things that I can just pull out and use, and then teachers will borrow them as well. One I'm going to do that they kind of like, because I try to also branch off of my own things. So the human radio one, if you guys could do this one with me. So we are now human radios, right? And we're going to use our skill of attention and our mindful listening skills to tune into our first station. And that first station, we're going to listen to any of the sounds that you hear in this room. So just noticing what is on that station. And now on our Mindful Musical Network, we are going to move our attention to the sounds and the radio station of the sounds in the rest of this building, so outside of this building. Final channel we're going to turn to is the sounds within our own body. And listen carefully and see if you can hear any of those. All right. And so just another way for them to make it more interesting, because I'm always trying to figure out a way to draw them in. So obviously do other things with the bell. Bell, there's like an obsession with ringing this bell. And so I have them in squat spots, and we go through and just take turns ringing the bell when we're doing that. So it's called a vibratone, and it's been awesome because they just haven't seen one, and so everybody wants to ring it. So,
I have to hear it at home.
oh, absolutely, yeah, for sure. These clips are like sounds where it's like listening to sounds, and then it I mean, you could just play this and it'll have a sound and it'll give them an opportunity to guess what it is, and then it shows you what it is. So there's a couple of those links there. And then the game of telephone. The kids have to focus and listen into what each other are saying. So just some more kind of experiential ways. And then we also talk about why is it important to listen? In sports, who do I need to listen to? You know, if I'm listening to my coach and my teammate's not listening to my coach, then how are we going to know what we're supposed to do? Can we be on the same page? So every single thing is relating it back to that. But then also, how else can you use this in life? Mindful seeing. I live on an island where I haven't gone a day without seeing an eagle, which is a magical thing. And so we talk about the fact that eagles have better vision than humans. So we're going to look in this room or the gym with our eagle eyes. We've been in here for a while now. So we're going to take our time and just physically scan the room slowly and seeing if you can notice something that you didn't notice before. So if you guys don't mind doing that with me, just scan around the room slowly, like almost methodically. Is there anything that you would like to share that you noticed? Ah, excellent. And it's fascinating what kids who have been in either a gym or a classroom for, by the time I'm getting here, I mean, we've been there for a while. And the things that they're like, oh, I never saw that, I never saw that. How can this be helpful in sports? What do you need to be able to see or notice in sports? How can this help in life? I spy, only I noticed. So using mindful terminology to a game that we can already play and the kids enjoy. When I introduce like a mindful body, I actually use this book. And in the book, in the interest of time, I'm going to be quick about it, but this is a 5th grade class, East Oakland, and so it talks about them, and it's actually them co-writing the book with Lori Grossman, who's actually here. And so it talks about when you need mindfulness, gives examples, and then it says, when these things happen, you can help yourself. Just use the shark fin as your signal to call up your superhero. And the shark fin is taking your hand and just going like this and doing the 6 S's. And I'm gonna have Idanya, this is off of, when you buy the book, you can get access to audios of the kids actually doing it. So, I'm gonna play this for you. Because I also like to try, like, it's not just coach that is telling you these things, like, this is, let's see.
Getting ready to practice mindfulness, doing the shark fin. To practice mindfulness, you need to get ready, and you get ready by doing the shark fin. To do the shark fin, you put the side of your hand on your forehead with your thumb touching your forehead. Now move your hand down your face in front of your nose. Say shh and close your eyes as your hand moves down. If you are sitting down, you do the 6 S's. While you move your hand, sit up straight, sit still, sit silently, soft breathing, shut eyes, and soft smile. If you are standing, you do the same, but you are standing straight, still, silently, using soft breathing, shut eyes, and soft smile while you move your hand down your face. You are now ready to practice mindfulness. You can see the picture of one of us doing the shark fin in the book.
So that way, it's not just me, it's the book. They see it, the book, right? It is really impactful for them. Now, when we talk about our mental game, I tell them from the start, like, no, it's your choice whether or not you decide to improve your mental game. If you are not going to do the exercises, that's okay, but please be mindful and respectful of those that are. And when we do the shark fin, some are laying down, some are like, which is perfectly fine. It works, whatever works for them. And some you can tell are kind of not focused. But then interestingly, often those are the ones that are actually like getting it in. I had a kid who at recess took a rock, I was on recess duty, he took a rock and hit it against like one of the playground equipment like poles, and then I watched him do this. And of all the students in his entire classroom, he was the most least likely. Never have I seen him do it in class, never. But he was on the playground, found a rock, rang the bell, and did his shark fin. And it was like, all right, you know what, even when I don't think something's happening, and when we don't, they're getting it in some shape or form. And even if they don't fully grasp it down the road. I remember when that PE teacher did that. Let me revisit, what is that all about, actually? So another thing, Mindful Life Project has got some really great stuff. Their step, and I found this book before I found Mindful Life Project, but theirs is, and they actually have a little kind of song that goes with it, so if you want to check out their website, you can. And they have, I've got my spine in a line, I got my hands in my lap, my heart to the sky, now close your eyes or soft gaze below. And I do want to mention, even though it says shut your eyes here, I tell my kids that either that is not a requirement in any way, shape, or form. Like either look down with a soft gaze or shut your eyes, whatever feels comfortable for you. And I always make sure to mention to them that I will have my eyes open and I will be watching the class so everyone's safe. So, then we get into mindful breathing. When we do this, I always show them this video abroad. And it's a really short video. It's 11 seconds.
This is the last time out. He has played the entire game. He would have played the entire game in Game 6. It wasn't a blowout.
So, and then we talk about that. So I'm tying it back to sports again. When can you use this? There's numerous different things things that they like. Putting just a beanbag even on the belly. It's, if you don't have all these stuffed animals. I have a couple books that I use. I was going to read them, but in the interest of time, these books have all different ways. My kiddos love bear breath because we hang out with them. But there's like ninja breath, superhero breath, underwater breath, all different. This book's alpha breaths. That one's breathe like a bear. And so I'll read a few of these different ones. And I'll just do the ninja one just so you get an idea. Pretend that you were a ninja. Breathe in and out as silently and as slowly as you can. So if you want to try that. Also will use ninja just because that's like another thing that kind of like draws them in. So we're gonna, walk like ninjas, or get up out of your spot and get into line like a ninja. So those kinds of things. I also have them create their own breath. So which was fascinating because after I share some of these, I said, okay, make your own. And I had a kid who was really into baseball, so it was breathe in, breathe out. And it was his, So anybody can make up a breath, and if it's meaningful to you. So I also use a Hoberman sphere. It's kind of hard to bring from Alaska. If you've ever seen one, it kind of expands and then gets back. So when we are doing this, I actually I have several little ones and then a couple big ones. And And so I'm passing them around, and they are, breathing with it, because then it's hands-on. I use a balloon to demonstrate like a deep and shallow breath. Forgot to bring those, but like we talk about what the shallow breath is. There's like barely any air in here, and then I take a deep breath. Now I fill up the balloon, and now I hold those two balloons. Here's a full balloon. Here's a tiny balloon. Said, okay. Now if I am breathing shallow, I'm exercising or I'm anxious or I'm scared. If I'm taking a deep breath, how does that feel when I do that? Okay, so if I can be in control of my breath, I can be in control of my emotions. And so that's like another piece of using things. And then when we do this, making sure that they have a chance to ring the bell. So, brain science is, I use this book for it, and then I talk about the flip the lid, and there's a video here if you're not familiar with like how to teach that. And then I'm really holding out real life examples. This book has some great ones. This is physically written by the 5th graders, so it's like, I was using mindfulness because I had a history project that stressed me out a lot. It helped me be less frustrated because I was able to focus on my work and do it little by little. Taking breaths helped me not to procrastinate. And it's got like pictures, and then there's I used mindfulness when I couldn't play in my basketball game because I was late. Even though I took some breaths, I was still disappointed, but I also started cheering on my team. I stayed calm and recognized that I need to be more responsible. And so this is real to them. This one, they always get a laugh out of this one. When I was at my friend's house and I put his dog in my lap and it threw up on me, I did mindfulness. But so this is like great real life examples, and that makes it more real to them. Kobe Bryant video on here, there's a link to that where he talks about using his mindfulness practice. And this is from one of my students, just one of their comments that they made to me. And then mindful movement. So if you want to stand up. All right, awesome. Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, absolutely, thank you so much.
Super happy and impressed.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so we're going to do one, and this is out of Thich Nhat Hanh's 10 Mindful Movements, and it's called the frog. So, and I didn't think I was supposed to copy a book and put it in my presentation if I wanted to see it. So you start out like this with your feet kind of in a V. And if you need a little bit more separated, that's fine. And if you feel comfortable doing so, you can go breathe in and up onto your heels, and then out and down, and it's down as far down as you feel comfortable, and back up. And if it doesn't feel comfortable to be on your toes, do that. And we would just do that 3 times. So that's one of the motions. Another one is a balancing one where we would do this, and we would just take our breathe in and out, and do 3, breathe in and out, and 3 on each side. So just things that work on balance, things that, and we're combining our movement with our breath. And then the brain-body connection. We talk about being able to perform at optimal levels. You need sleep. Body scan is a great one to go with that. There is an audio from this book of that too. And then also on Mindful Life Project, they have some really great things. And in the interest, we'll just do this real quick. I use this one talking about kindness and being a good teammate. We all connect, and if one person disconnects, then it doesn't light up anymore, and then when we reconnect, so for example, and then our hands touch here, and if we disconnect, then they don't. So how your actions impact your teammates, and kindness. So that's something that's real and experiential that we do. And then, let's see, I think we're running out of time here. We'll do, I'll show one more. So, take your hands and you cross them like this. and then go through like this. Now, you do this with a partner. You mind helping me out, Robin? All right, awesome, thank you. So you're gonna start like this, bring it through. Now, I'm gonna point to one of your fingers, and this is really hard, okay? And I wanna see if you could just lift that finger up, but I'm not gonna touch your finger, all right? So, right? And then this one. Good. All right, you did a good job of that. But oftentimes, way better than I did.
You have to focus.
You have to really focus. So trying to do different things like that where they're really causing them to focus and pay attention. Walk, stop, clap, jump.
That's
Say,
hard.
have you done that one? Okay, awesome. All right. I shared this with my staff through emails, updates at staff meetings, and these are some additional resources. Mindful hip hop songs, which is really awesome. They take songs, they got Spanish and English, and they take songs that kids have heard, and then they switch the words to mindful words. So I'm playing the Mindful Nene, and they're like, wait a minute, Coach. I'm like, yeah, listen to this. And so that's some of the music that I'll play when my kiddos are doing our activities.
Is that just a YouTube or, oh no,
Mindful Life Project.
Oh, okay, it's all in
Yeah,
there.
you can go in there.
Because
But
even with our kids, we do whip it nene, but we do the jumping jacks and the,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
movements.
Awesome. Yeah, it's phenomenal. Also, just for PE stuff, Open Phys Ed is a completely free resource. They have, all you have to do is put your school email address in.
Okay.
You get tons and tons. So they actually have a yoga and mindfulness curriculum, like, or a unit, I should say. But all sorts of awesome just PE resources in general. And yeah, we're gonna stop right there. On the thing, you have access to like my school-wide mindful minute, the script for that,
Okay.
and just some other things I'm doing in the community. But do you have any questions?
I don't. This was
Okay.
great.
Awesome.
This is the first one today where you like put the actual, what you're doing in the classroom to it, not just the picture of how we're gonna do it. It's great.
Awesome. Cool.
Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.